processes. Okay, who am I? My name is Tim. I am founder and CEO of Process Delight. Process Delight is our mission is digital comfort, which means that we want to make sure that people spend less time on administration, so they have more time for their core business. I started Process Delight in 2017. Before that, I was helping large companies such as AB InBev and Sodexo to automate processes and digitalize processes. So that's where my passion started. For some reason, my mouse is not doing what it should be doing. Okay, so today in this session, I would like, it's not a technical session, it's a section where I would inspire a little bit about the way to, how to approach companies, how to approach clients when they have a project of digitalizing, of digital transformation. We do this always on 3 pillars, which is data and document management, process automation, and communication. Those 3, each process that you have, those 3 pillars will always come back. Now, translating this to a Power App or to an automation is there are a few steps you have to take. Yeah? What we certainly want to avoid is that we start from business requirements, because if you start from business requirements, you easily are going to compare, and you are going to compare with existing applications. And often the distance between the defined requirements by management and the real process, which is done by the people, by the people on the floor, there is a huge distance between those 2, which makes that often lots of money is invested in automation, and then the user adoption is not what it should be. That's why we use this approach as I'm going to propose it. So those 3 pillars, how do we work when we start up a project? First, we start in workshops. We go to sit together with the people, and we start by putting the process, by making an inventory of the process in a swim lane diagram. This means that we define stakeholders, we define process phases, and we define process steps. This is the first layer that we are going to put on it. Then data and document management, where we define the metadata. Each process has certain data and certain steps that appears. And of course, we also have documents that needs to be handled. Third step, very important, is communication, which we divide in internal and external communication. And then internally and externally, we also divide it in notifications and reporting. For us, sorry, reporting is also a way of communicating. We are going to create dashboards and stuff like that. So how to put this in practice? For instance, if you have on the first lane, this is a pre-sales phase that we have as an example, where you have 3 stakeholders: team lead, sales and marketing, and management. And then you have the certain steps. As you see, every workshop, that means that those 2 stakeholders, they are involved in this step. Now, in practice, how does it look like? I'll show you in an Excel file, just to show you a little in an Excel file. So what is done is that we have up here, we are going to make an inventory. You have the swim lane, the stakeholders. You see there is a request for this is an example of an HR process. And what you also see up here is that we add tools and applications. Nowadays, we see that more and more companies, they are using specific applications for specific functionalities. Can be exact online, can be whatever, Salesforce or all stuff. And it's not, and you just want to have a complete digital digital process where those tools, they are implemented. And so there's one time that people will put in the data, and then it needs to go from one application to another automatically. Of course, there will be gaps, and this is where the gaps are. There we will implement Power Apps tools, or we will go more to Fusion development, which I will explain a little bit later. So by making this first step, by making this inventory, this will be the foundation of all the rest. That means that, okay, we see in which step which application is used, and then we see also in which step which data and which communication is added. So the more you go into the process, the more and more data will become, and the more and more also the more and more documents will be involved. And then the next step is, of course, the communication, where we go into also in the steps in which communication is there towards clients, external people, which communication is there internally, and also the reporting that we have. So moving on, we come to the Fusion development. So once we have done this exercise of making an inventory, and this inventory, it can be of the core process of a company, and then we are going to make the same exercise for sub processes of those companies. And so actually you will have a complete view of what needs to be done and towards in a roadmap of digital transformation, of digitalization. Now, starting there, we will try to create. We will put the step towards digitalization and making those applications. What we see now and more, and what we are using more and more, is Fusion development. That means that we are going to use a front end that we built, and we often build it together with the clients in a co-creation in Power Apps. And then we have, of course, the functionalities as we have Automate Flow of Power Automate. We have Logic apps. We have other connectors that we can use. And also, then we have the data, where we are going to store the data. It can be on SharePoint for very light processes. It can be on Dataverse, or it can be on SQL servers in Azure, all depending on the performance and the complexity of the automations. So actually, Microsoft is offering our toolbox, a complete toolbox, which is very dynamic and very easy to use. Also, people will always, an organization, they will always evolve. And that means that it never stays the same. It will always evolve, and there's always approvals that are done. Now, by using the Fusion development, it's far more easy also to adapt those automations to the modifications that are done in the processes. So this is how we do approach this. You see, by having first this exercise on the Excel file, taking into account those 3 pillars to do the business analysis, and then going to the Fusion development, we have a huge improvement of user adoption, and also of satisfaction of the tools of the automation that we've built. We also see that it is, for budget reasons, a very good opportunity, and it's a lot cheaper than full stack development. Okay. So data and document management. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the data that we have now. From how do we go from a process to data. There are three differences. What we see now, still lots of companies, they are in the first step of digitization. That means that they have a lot of paper that needs to be translated into digitization. How can we do that with AI Builder and also with the document tool, Microsoft document tool, that can be used for that. So once you go into, and I will show in the next slides, the second step is going from digitization to digitalization. If you see up here, if we are going to digitize and digitalize, we are going to gather data of our process for one particular client. And this is then operational. It can be how satisfaction. It can also the measurement of how a process is acting. What is the run time of a process and so on. By doing this by each project and gathering those data, if we go to the horizontal, then we are starting to build horizontal business intelligence on organizational basis. That means that if you have 10 clients and 10 processes that are running and there are gaps or in certain process steps that there is a bottleneck, and this is where you can detect how you can detect this and then can. But where we need to go to is combining those two and starting to build big data so we can make, and then we go to digital transformation, is to make our processes intelligent. And to make processes intelligent, we need a lot of data. And this is the first step. Digitization is the first step. Digitalization is the second step. And then go to digital transformation is the third step. So we've had the process, we've had the data, and now we come to the communication. As I explained, we have communication. We divide in external communication, we divide it, and then internal communication, and then we have the notifications that we have, and we have the reporting. Okay, so at each step we will use this. So what we do in terms of communication is that we put Microsoft Teams as a central platform within the organization. Now, a lot of companies, they are still using Microsoft Teams just to have chats and to do online meetings. But as we all know, the possibilities with Microsoft Teams are far more than just that. So if you see towards processes, we are going to include the Power Apps completely in Microsoft Teams. Why? Because it will attract the people to Microsoft Teams. Also, SharePoint and intranet, we will use it, and we will also include it into Microsoft Teams. And then we have also an external portal. So not to avoid a lot of communication with emails, we often use for companies with a lot of data that needs documents and data that needs to be exchanged with clients. We are going to use an external portal. And of course, we will stay with mails, but mails needs to be limited to a minimum. For instance, to give you one example, in our company, we work without internal mails. Somebody wants to send a mail internally, he needs to buy a beer for our company. We haven't had it, but that's the philosophy that we have. So by doing this, you see there is a lot of efficiency in working. If we see in companies, 50 to 60% of all emails sent are internal emails, and they are all sent with lots of people in scope, and it's very time consuming and very frustrating, because you need to open each mail first to decide whether it's mail, this mail is really for you, it's relevant or not. So by making this happening in companies, we see a lot of time that is normally spent on administration and mails that can be more used for the core business, which has also an impact on the satisfaction and the added value of your employees in the organization. So let me show you how this works in practice. I will show the use case of our own company. So what we see up here is we have our team environment, and in our team environment we also have our intranet site. Why? Because if you have a separate intranet site, people are not motivated to go to that intranet site. So a lot of internal communication is missed because people just don't go there. What we also do, we combine the intranet site with a digital workplace. So see up here, if we go up here, we are opening into the same still in Teams, we are opening our digital workplace. So there's document management in it, and these are also tools that we are working in it. So you will see we have two main apps that we use, and that is our time registration and our project planning. Going to document management, for instance, you can see up here, if you go and you can click to suppliers, and we can open our document management. So this is another view that we created to make it more happen, to make it easier to work with metadata. For instance, if I have a document up here, just gonna take a document and slide it in here. You will see directly there is a pop-up that's coming, and where you can add directly your metadata to it. But of course, this is SharePoint. Behind this is all those documents are stored in SharePoint, and so we are not going to invent a new SharePoint. What we did up here is we also enable to have the SharePoint view still in Teams. So instead of creating for each channel a separate library, we just turn around. So all documents, they are stored centrally in SharePoint with metadata, which enable document management like approving and stuff like that. And it's also available in Teams. Now, for technical reasons, not all functionalities can be, and this has something to do with an iframe, and an iframe cannot be in this view. So we also created just a button, and if you go there, then you come directly in SharePoint on the same library, and you can have all the functionalities that are needed. So it makes it enables which because SharePoint is not an easy tool. You need to have training to do this. This makes it with the tile structure. It makes it very easy and very user friendly. Yeah. Now we have our time registration and our pod. So let me explain a little bit how that works in our environment. I will just put up here. So boot. So what happens if we have there's a new project, we will create a project up here, and this project has directly a number. So for instance, okay, we create this. For each client, a team is automatically created. Once that a team is created and there is a new project, the project will be a new channel in that team. So we are going to communicate and centralize everything in that team for that particular project. It's based on a template, so in this template also the rights are set automatically. And if you see this number that's come back in, it's always coming back in the time registration. Those are two Power Apps, complete Power App technology. We have our time registration, and if I want to put a time registration, I will put like tests. I will create the project and I will say, okay, this is the project. I will select this, and I can also select skills because, for instance, electrical. So these two things, by combining the project and also having the time registration together, it all concludes into a Power Dashboard thing. So what I've also wanted to say is that in the project management, what we are going to do is we are going to put a workload estimate in our thing. So for a project, we are going to make an estimate of how many time we will spend, we think to spend in a project. These two, they are then again combined in Power BI dashboard, which is being. So then if I go back up here, management and Power BI projects, Power BI dashboard, okay. For instance, up here, then we can make a comparison on how many we actually spent by the time registration and how many we estimated by the with the hours that we planned. So this is also with the two apps gives us already a lot of another documentation. So now I'm just going to show you a new version of the project management app that we created. So up here, if you see, this is a lot more functionalities that we implemented. So up here, if you open it, we can be able to set meetings. We know the client's rates, and then we will put again the estimations. And we have also when the deal is closed, we will start with the planning. So actually, this will allow, if we then look at the planning, this will allow us to see pre-sales, the deals in process. We have the project in process. We see up here all the subtasks that are put in, and we can also assign people to this directly from in the Power App. Okay, so we also can create tasks of it on it. So instead, I have one task, and in this task, we will also be able. It's not done up here, but in the next, because this is not still on construction, but up here, you will be able to communicate again in this app. So what we are doing is we are centralizing everything in Teams. And actually our whole organization and everything goes into Teams. And this makes it a lot easier to work. For instance, now if we want to search for a team, we can also very easily go to Power Apps, Power Addicts, for instance. We have Power Addicts up here. I see directly, okay, there is a channel for Power Addicts. I see the people that have access to it, and then we can go directly to this this channel, and we will see all the documents there. Documents that are in a central library in SharePoint, but this view of this SharePoint is in the this channel. Okay. Are there any questions? Nope.
No, I don't have questions in the chat.
No. Okay. Good. So if we see up here, let me go back to our presentation then. Okay. Okay. And then, of course, we are able to put everything, all the data that we assembled from our, I know, just back, okay. Okay, so of course, with all the data that we gathered, we are going to make the business intelligent and our Power BI dashboards, and within different dimensions, starting from the process and then also on the organization level. Okay, so these are a few examples of dashboards that we made. So our approach is also as we limit ourselves to administration. What we do is we build a lot of, and I'll show you another view. Is what we do is we build a lot of what we call template apps. You know, so we see that a lot of processes and administration are in a lot of companies quite similar. And so we build those apps and we make it as templates, and then we use them as a base, and then we build them custom to our clients. That means that each process we can see it as a puzzle, and we are going to put pieces of the puzzle together and to digitalize the two advantages as we use those templates apps often with different clients, and they are already for performance reasons. They have been tested and they are very stable, and it is also for on budget reasons. It's more advantage than just starting always again from scratch, which often happens in companies. Lots of apps that we have. One is also quite interested is a Teams provisioning app. This app will allow you in the companies to set profiles for teams, and to avoid that people can just create teams themselves. This also includes an approval flow. I'm just going to back to this app. Okay. So you can have profile apps that can be created. In here, we can set this kind of team, a team type that can be done. It can be a new team that they can configure themselves. Does it needs to be a template? We also can include a naming convention, which makes it a lot easier to retrieve teams. If you have a lot of teams, makes it a lot easier. You can configure, you can set a team picture. If there is an approval needed, yes or no, if it's a private or an optional, and if there is an incrementation number or not. Also important is that up here we can configure the amount of owners that a team needs to have, and we can also automatically include an owner, for instance, an IT support account. So to avoid that, if somebody is just leaving the company, that you don't have an owner of that team anymore, and that you need pass by IT to get it in the admin port and to set the new thing. So these are things that can guarantee that your team's environment within 5 or 6 years, it is still a clean environment, it is still well managed, and people don't lose time in looking for documents and stuff like that, or looking for channels or looking for information. So this is one of the apps, and the reason why we make these apps and we make them is because this is a process that actually every company that works with teams should have and should use to make sure that they stay future-proof, with especially when you put Microsoft Teams in as a central platform in your organization. Okay. Another example I can give is recruitment. What we see is that there are of course a lot of recruitment apps or recruitment software that exist, but it's often very complicated with a lot of functionalities, and it is not for PMEs. What we do is because we receive the request of a PME of a company. Yes, we want to have a flow, a power app to manage our recruitments. Then okay, we build it, and then we all of a sudden we receive more and more requests for that, and we can also show them that. And so we are resolving a gap that there is, because there is a lot of the applications that exist. They are very expensive, and they are only for enterprise, for large companies. But for the PMEs, there is nothing. So up here, we have a simple app where people just can create a vacancy. And then once the vacancy is created, they can put in candidates. They receive from candidates the CVs, and they can put them in. There is no data in here, I see, where they can, then you can have a board view, a list view, and they will also, they can just, if they put in the candidate, they can also put the interviews, and the candidates linked to Outlook, so you can put in the interviews, and then you can also invite those people in with mail templates that are also included. And so the archive that we have up here is actually a vacancy database, where people that have not been selected, you can keep the CVs and the profiles for 1 year, and then after that they are automatically anonymized to be compliant with the GDPR rules. So this is about it. We can go. We have also the project planning installed. Events tool for internal events. This is the external portal where I talked about, where we go from the SharePoint environment, where documents can be approved, and then they are automatically able to, with an API, they are available for clients. That means if you have a lot of interaction with external clients, you don't want to give them always access to your Teams or to your SharePoint, because it's too much time to always to manage those access. Up here in this external portal, they can just, you can have your company domain name is recognized as a client, and then one admin from that company can just assign roles to employees of that client. So for instance, somebody from accounting can easily see the invoices that are put available in that portal, and for instance, somebody from technical can see the plans or whatever from some technical fiches from there also. So it also allows to work on a more efficient way by avoiding external mails and stuff like that. Okay, so this is another view, another session. It's not a technical session. I hope it can inspire you a little bit of how to implement Teams, and what the possibilities are to use the tools that we have with Power Apps, Power Automate, to make the life and the digital comfort of people in companies better.
Tim, we have 2 questions in the chat.
Yes.
2 questions from Servaas. How do you manage clients and thus teams that are inactive?
That are inactive. Well,
Yeah.
The teams, if they are, it takes a little bit of hygiene, and because the way that we work, We now have I think about 500 teams so we need to take care of that. How do we do that? If clients are inactive, we will archive them. If they have no use anymore, we often delete them. And as we centralize all the documents that we have in OneNote, we centralize them in SharePoint. It's not a problem to delete a team because we still have those documents, so we can still use them. So it's the reverse way. I think 95% of 99% of companies and people using Teams, they store the documents in the channels and in the channels of Teams, which gives instead of centralizing your documents, you're decentralizing them because they're all separated in different teams, and every team has a separate site collection, so it's all separated. So what we do is we are going to import a SharePoint library into that team and using there, because then if we delete the team, we still have our documents centralized in SharePoint.
So that, and then the other question was the same question with projects that are ended. So it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. So we will delete them. Can also be automated. If, for instance, after 6 months we see that there is no action, no interaction in that team, that we have a list, and then we can decide, okay, we will delete them and we will not. We will move them away. Yeah.
Hopefully, Sebas, this answers your questions.
Well, can I go further on it? Do we have time?
Of course. Yeah, we have the time.
Oh, well, I was wondering, when you share a document in Teams, it is put on private in their private library, and nobody can access from the company. So how do you manage the documents that are shared in a team and put them publicly for everyone? Maybe someone doesn't want it to be shared for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think I know. There is a hierarchy that is still that we still use, and the hierarchy is that the people in the team don't, but it depends on the policy of clients that what they are using, but the hierarchy, the rights on the library in SharePoint is prior to the people that have access to the team. That means is that if you manage your teams, you manage your document in SharePoint, and there you give the people access to the team. So it can be that somebody has access to a certain team, but does not have access to a certain document in that library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, so this is the last session of today. We'll have a closure in 5 minutes in the lobby and break room. So we can, if there are no questions anymore, we can close this down for now.
Okay.
Okay. So then, Tim, thank you very much for your session.
You're welcome.
And it was a very nice surprise what you did with the Power Platform and the integrations with Teams. So I thank you again for sharing this with us. And then again, also, I thank all the listeners that joined the whole day. Hopefully it was inspiring and meaningful for you to follow all the sessions, and hopefully meet again in one of our Power Talks that will be organized in the coming months. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening and end of the day.